Roadshow presentation. It's a pleasure to have everyone dialing in. Actually, the national president has an emergency that he needs to take care of. So he will try to join us much later, but now the show will begin and it's gonna be an interesting one. So first of all, I will ask our youth president, Ms. Udeme, to lead us in prayers and open this roadshow presentation.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Father God, we hope that this meeting is as productive as possible. All the amazing things that this organization is putting on, amazing things that are going to be coming from our people. Please bless us in this meeting and give us guidance and make sure our path is clear so we know how to best move forward with this organization. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you so much, Ms. Udeme. Appreciate that. So, roadshow, we do this, it's the president's initiative to allow us the opportunity to let the membership, AKISAN members, know what's happening in the committees, what the committees are doing to make AKISAN better. And especially with the Constitution Committee, we will have the amendments coming up, but this is an opportunity for everyone to hear so we can think over these things, and come time for voting, we will know what we are voting for, because some people just come to convention. Some people are not very much into the chapters to understand what is happening. And sometimes when these amendments come, it becomes, they need that information to actually know what they are voting for. So this roadshow is another opportunity that we're going to have to listen to the Constitution Committee present an overview of the amendments. And before we actually get into this, I just want to remind everyone to get vaccinated. I know the pause on the Johnson & Johnson has been lifted. The CDC confirms that the benefit outweighs the very little incidences they've had with the blood clot, which was like 7 people out of 6 million, 7 million. So please get vaccinated. We have the council meeting coming up next weekend, and I hope we're all ready to meet in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville is waiting. We have the convention. The convention planning committee has started work. We encourage everyone, please register and go on to reserve your hotel reservations, collect the arts. We're gonna need arts. That's how we raise funds. And let's start getting ready. It's just, we're almost in May, so June, July. So please be a part of what we're doing to make this convention a successful one. Talk to your friends, get us arts. So this roadshow is gonna be recorded, correct? Dr. Kiko? So that people—
Yes, it is recorded.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So that's the overview. So now we will begin. The committees to present today are going to be in this order. First is gonna be the beauty. Then it's gonna be health. It's gonna be the welfare. I'm sorry, it's gonna be the finance committee, number 3. Then the welfare committee is gonna be number 4. And the Constitution Committee is going to be number, I said beauty 1, health number 2, finance, welfare, and the 5th one is Constitution Committee.
Think of the master closet. Is there enough?
Did somebody say something?
We muted it, sorry, Mas. We
Oh,
muted
that's
it.
fine. That's fine. And please, it's going to be 10 minutes presentation for all committees except the Constitution Committee, which will have a lot more to talk about. And we will have 10 minutes given for question and answers. So if we calculate briefly, it's gonna be 4 committees at 20 minutes, which is 80 minutes. And then the Constitution Committee is gonna present for maximum about 45 minutes and have the leftover time, which will give them like 1.5 hours. We are looking forward to finishing today within 3 hours, maximum. So please, let's pay attention to the time. Thank you. So now I will call upon, anybody has anything to say before we start? Clarifications, questions or anything? Okay. Always silence means we can continue. So in the absence of anything, please, I will call on the committee chair for the beauty pageant, who is in the person of youth president.
Hi.
So kick it off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Udeme Kaidi. I am the National Youth President and also the pageant committee chair for this year's pageant. I'm really excited to be presenting to you all today. We have a lot of things that are in the works. So a light update on the pageant is at hand. Are we gonna be able to make it full screen? Perfect, I love it. So throughout this presentation, you will be seeing a lot of pictures. As we move on with the presentation, you'll hear a lot about legacy and you'll hear a lot about recognizing those that came before us. So that is the main purpose why we have a lot of the pictures of previous title holders. Even though they had their time and they had their year or maybe more to be in those positions, I think it's extremely important to continue to remember the many people that have had these titles and the amazing things that they did with their titles. Because if we remember those people and we remember the things that they did, we will definitely be able to inspire more contestants and more goodwill and selflessness in the future, especially in our youth. So the beginning of the presentation for the Mr. and Miss Ibom USA pageant for 2021. Next slide. So this is a short rundown of all of the members that are part of the committee. I myself, of course, I'm the AKISAN Youth President and Miss AKISAN USA 2019. And I hail from the beautiful, sunny, amazing Tampa chapter, of course. And then we have Mr. Mbeke Ekanem. He's Mr. AKISAN USA 2018, and he hails from the Los Angeles chapter, of course. We have Miss Essie Ndem, who was Miss AKISAN USA 2017, coming from the Atlanta chapter. Miss MM Etukino, Miss AKISAN USA 2016, also from the Atlanta chapter. We have the marvelous Mrs. Itawan James, who is currently on this call. She's the AKISAN Board of Trustees Treasurer, who hails from the Los Angeles chapter. Mrs. Esther Ekong from the San Francisco chapter, who has been very, very involved in the pageant for many years. So we're very blessed and we're happy to have her on this team. And then we have Dr. Edidiong Ekpe Ekpo, who is the first Miss AKISAN USA in 1994. She hails from the Atlanta chapter, but when she competed, she represented the Miami chapter. Just want to make sure we represent Florida. And then we have Dr. Ibanga Ikpe. He is from the Miami chapter as well. So we have a lot of people from all over the nation that are working to make sure that this pageant and future pageants run as smoothly as possible. Next slide. Thank you. So we have beauty versus scholarship. This pageant is an opportunity to reinforce the importance of hard work, intellect, and confidence into the young men and women of our diaspora. Hosting a pageant that focuses on scholarship opens the door to new phases of competition. These new phases will help fortify strong networking and relationship skills while showcasing each contestant's ability to represent AKISAN and Akwa Ibom State internationally. So it's very important that we look at the differences between beauty and scholarship. It is actually really important for me to say, when I won Miss Akwa Ibom USA in 2019, I did have a very respected member of AKISAN approach me and tell me that it can't just be about being beautiful. You have to be smart, and you actually have to have something in here, in your brain, to be able to represent our people. And I took that to heart. And I really, really believe that what that person said was 100% right. You have to be smart, and you have to be intellectual, and you have to hold some type of confidence in the academic world and also in a philanthropic sense in order to really represent AKISAN and Akwa Ibom State as Mr. or Miss Akwa Ibom USA. So that is why the Miss AKISAN, Mr. AKISAN USA pageant will hold a scholarship sense more than a beauty sense. So to be in the future referred to as Mr. and Miss Akwa Ibom USA scholarship pageant. So I'm very excited that we're going to be able to do this. Next slide, please. These are a couple pictures of our amazing title holders. Like I said in the beginning of the presentation, it's very important to be able to remember and praise those that came before us. Next slide, please. A legacy to empower the next, which is, like I said, something that's extremely important to talk about, very important to keep in mind in the planning and also the execution of a pageant and the activities that the title holders will be a part of after they win. It's important to recognize and praise those that came before us. Showcasing the strong women and men that represented these titles in the past will inspire the next and benefit AKISAN and this pageant system. Creating a space for mentorship and support is also a very important part of building a legacy. So I would like to take from a more personal side of my experience as Miss Akwa Ibom USA. I had the support of so many individuals that I am truly blessed and just so happy that I was able to connect with them and they were able to be there for me while I held this title. But in particular, when we talk about previous title holders that were there for me to mentor and to support me, I definitely need to make sure that I mention Essie and them, who of course was Miss AKISAN 2017. I truly thank her. Etukino definitely assisted me. And although Mbeke Kanem and I traveled together back home for Ibom Day, he was a title holder before me. He remained in that position through 2019 and until now. So he is someone that definitely was a part of those that supported and helped during this whole entire process. And with the love and support that I got from those individuals and more, I can't name everyone because I don't have much time, but I think that this is extremely important to move forward with. And it's important for future contestants and future title holders to be able to rely on a legacy, to be able to rely on individuals that have been through this before. So moving forward, in conjunction with my own project, the Legacy Project, the pageant committee will be making sure to praise and recognize previous title holders at every single pageant and throughout the year through social media and newsletters. Next slide, please. Perfect. So one of the main questions that some people have been asking me is in regards to if we will have a face-to-face pageant or a virtual pageant. So I'm here to set the record straight. As of now, the pageant committee is planning to produce a face-to-face pageant. In the event that the convention is unable to host the pageant, this committee has the resources to transition into a virtual pageant. The health of our pageant committee, contestants, judges, and audience is of the utmost importance. The CDC guidelines will be followed in the event that we do have a face-to-face pageant. That's definitely something that a lot of people have been wondering. I myself have completed my vaccination process, so I know that in the event that we have a face-to-face, of course, we'll still be wearing face coverings, and we will encourage all of our contestants to get vaccinated. And if that will be mandatory has not been determined yet. Next slide. Now, this is the, actually, this isn't the end. Can you go forward one? Okay, no, so there's one more slide that's actually not there.
Yeah, that is the file I got.
Okay, so we can move forward. That's perfectly fine. I'll be able to send out something later on so everyone can be up to date. But I just wanted to show everyone that the Mr. Ibom USA 2021 crown and the Miss Ibom USA 2021 crown have been purchased. We are super excited for this year's pageant. We're very happy to have all the support possible. In the event that anyone is interested in sponsoring or being a part of sponsoring this event or sponsoring future projects of the title holders that will be crowned in August, please send an email to pageant@akisan.org and we'll definitely get back to you. There are so many things that are going to be coming out soon. Any question, any concern, or any suggestion that you have, like I said, go ahead and send it to us via email at pageant@akisan.org. And there are going to be a lot of things that are coming out soon. So we're really excited, and we hope everyone will understand that this is definitely a very important part of AKISAN, and we really do appreciate any and all support.
Okay,
That's
that concludes it.
yes, that's the conclusion presentation because the other slide isn't there. Yeah.
Good job.
Good job. Wow.
Good job.
So proud of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Udeme.
Thank you.
It's really great to see the things that are going on on that platform. We appreciate it. And the key things are that it's about inspiring the new contestants to come by acknowledging what the previous people have done. That is always very crucial. Thank you. And
thank you.
Leaving a legacy of empowerment, the next contestants, and mentorship and support. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So any questions for her, please?
I have more of a comment to add to Udeme. I heard that you possibly may, you say it has not yet been determined if the next contestants we have to have to be vaccinated.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Ms. Usara, we're not hearing you clearly.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I heard one of during your speech, you said that the contestant may be asked to vaccinate, but you have not determined if that's going to be mandatory or not yet.
Yes.
However, I just wanted to, chime in there that when you guys determine that it should be mandatory, don't forget to look at the ordinances of respective states that they come from. because not a lot of states may have allowed that age group to be vaccinated. Just thought I would just tip that in for you. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you for the suggestion. We have to go through a lot of information before we can mandate anything. So we'll definitely take that to heart, and we'll look into that as we make that decision.
Thank you, Mr. Sarah. Yeah, I think, but we will keep on encouraging everyone to get vaccinated. It's for
Definitely.
of our community for our good. Hopefully, we will all be open to this. Please, Dr. Wemekwan, I see your hand is raised, and for this session, we will, probably not take more than 2 questions because of our time. So, Dr. Wemekwan, please ask your question. Thank you.
So one of the questions after is going to be a comment, then I'll ask a question. One of the things that Udeme said in a 16.5 minutes presentation was this: when she took the mantle of Miss Akwa Ibom, she listened to the word of elders that says beauty is not the only requirement and characteristic of a good young woman. And she said she took it to heart. She ran with it. And ladies and gentlemen, based on her performance this morning, this afternoon, it is evident that she has exhibited those attributes. And we of the AKISAN descendant and Akwa Ibom people should be proud to have a young, eloquent, ambitious, energetic woman of this caliber. In our language, which I'm going to say, I'm going to try to, our people say, when a child cleans her hands, he or she can eat with the elders. With the man, Tony Kaidi, you have done that. And there is this guy that wrote this book, Joe Weldon. Joe Weldon is one of the most renowned speakers in America. He's 77 years old. He lives in Arizona. And he wrote a book called Finding the Good in Bad. I believe you are now finding the good in bad. My question is, Udeme, looking at the newly minted Mr. Akwa Ibom hat or crown, can I have that crown?
It's actually right next to me. If you want it, you can.
That is beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course. I just want to say really quickly, if I could, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Ikwan, for those amazing and kind words. But it's not just me, it's the entire committee. It's everyone that is being a part of this whole entire process. And in the next couple months, it's also going to be the contestants that come in and put their heart into representing Akwa Ibom State on that stage. So I am kind of just like a bowl, and all the water that's coming in and all the fruit or anything that you'll put in your bowl, maybe the erikaiko, that's where the good stuff is, I'm just the container pretty much right now. So thank you so much. I really appreciate those kind words.
Thank you so much. So I believe that concludes that session. And I just want to say, please, let's encourage our youth. We know that the theme of this convention for this year really has to do with our youth, encouraging our youth and acknowledging who they are. And the future of AKISAN is our youth. So please reach out to the youth in our different chapters. Let us make it a responsibility. And it's achievable, but it's gonna take some work. So let's do it collectively and see how to draw them into the chapters. Let's get them involved, inclusive, give them responsibilities, and that's going to help grow this association. Thank you. Madam President, Youth President, very much appreciated. So, the next presentation, Engineer Kiko, please keep the time, okay? So we don't talk too much, please. The next presentation is going to be the Health and Medical Committee, chaired by Dr. Catherine Intekin. And please, Dr. Catherine Intekin, please take over. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I don't hear too many afternoons.
Good
I guess-
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, thank you. I just want to know that we have
Oh,
an
good
audience
morning
out
for us in
Maybe
the
they
West
want to see your
Coast.
face.
Good morning.
Madam
from
Chair,
Crystal.
we're here.
Oh,
Buenas
thank
tardes.
you so much.
Hi, Grace.
I have to apologize. I'm also in a continuing education class on another computer. So that's why you don't see my face. As part of our responsibility for the community, this team decided to speak on the topic diabetes. And I am very happy to know that we have very many able-bodied people that would discuss this topic. Please, those people whose names are listed as members of the committee that I have missed out on the slide, please forgive me. I didn't put everybody on there. It's not on purpose. It's just, it would be an error. We would have Miss O.M. Iang, our able-bodied VP, who is moderating this this town hall very eloquently. She will be a part of the presenters. Dr. Ekaite Roberts will also be presenting, as well as our own brother Archie Husora. I'm going to pass it on to Madam VP to begin the topic on diabetes. Next slide, sir.
Thank you so much, our able chairperson for this committee, the Health Medical Committee. Yes, diabetes. This is something that is very important to be aware of, very prevalent in our community with our people. So let's just talk about diabetes. Diabetes is a group of diseases that results when there is too much sugar in the blood, which is known as glucose. But before we can really look at it, we have to examine the process of breakdown of food in the body. So when we eat carbohydrate, which is the real eba that we love, the bread and all of that stuff, what happens to the body is that it goes through into the stomach, goes through the digestive system, and the carbohydrate is broken down into glucose, which is the sugar. And this stays in the blood. So there is the hormone called insulin in the pancreas. The pancreas is right above, below the stomach, and it releases this hormone, which acts really like a key that opens the door to the cells, and this glucose goes into the cells, and the body uses it as energy to the body. Next slide, please. So what happens in the body is that when this insulin cannot be released as it should, the sugar begins to build up in the body. So we are going to, this leads to the types of the diabetes, and which it could be type 1 diabetes, we will talk about it, it could be type 2. These are the most common forms, but we have the gestational diabetes, which also occurs when somebody is pregnant. But before we move into that, let's see how prevalent diabetes is. So here in the United States, we have the National Diabetes Statistics
Next
Report.
slide, please.
Oh, next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have the National Diabetes Statistics Report 2020, which actually is the studies that was done in 2018. So the population, American population for 2020 is 380 million people. And out of this, 34.2 million Americans, which is about 10.5%, have diabetes. That's a lot of people. And out of that 4.2 million, statistics shows that 26.9 among are diagnosed. So what happens to the rest of the 7.3 million people? They're undiagnosed, and some don't even know. A lot of them, under that, they don't know their diabetic status. And we are in it too. Some of us don't even know, because sometimes some people are not going to do the physicals to have an idea, which is very important. Next slide. And so actually, there is also the pre-diabetes, which was on the other slide. We will talk about that, and 88 million adults could be pre-diabetic. So next slide. This is the international data, but I'm gonna just keep it. But if we can look at it, it just tells us that about 460
Madam VP, you're muted.
I am muted. I just thought I'm muted.
All right, go ahead, sorry.
Yes, sorry. I was saying that this is international data, but because of time, skip that, move on from that slide, next slide. It just tells us that about 463 million people worldwide have diabetes. And worldwide, about 4.2 million people dying from diabetes. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how do we diagnose? How is diabetes diagnosed? There are criteria. So in the morning, some people do the blood test. I mean, there is a random blood sugar test, which it doesn't have to be done at any time. It can be any time, and anything above 200 milligrams per deciliters suggests diabetes. Then there is the fasting blood glucose, which if on 2 occurrences, that's the one most people do in the morning, you know, fasting blood sugar is after 8 hours, overnight, early morning of fasting. And if on 2 occasions that it's greater than or equal to 126 milligrams per deciliter, that's diabetes. Then there is what is called glycerated hemoglobin, which is popularly called A1C. A1C actually measures the glucose levels in humans from 2 to 3 months. It looks at what's going on in the body within 2 to 3 months. It's not a one-time like the fasting and all of that. This is looking at what the body has been doing in 2 to 3 months. And for a normal A1C level, it has to be around below 5.7%. Pre-diabetes is usually 5.7 to 6.4. And if that result comes up and it's 5 or greater percent on 2 separate tests, then that person is diabetic. So now let's look at, next slide, please. Let's look at the types of diabetes quickly. So there is the type 1 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes is usually referenced as the insulin-dependent diabetes. Why? Because it's a chronic condition in which the pancreas does not produce insulin. And because the pancreatic cells are being damaged by the autoimmune system. That's the human body is destroying the pancreatic cells. This is something that there is really no cure, and it's a very severe form of the disease. And people with type 1 diabetes, they have to be on insulin for the rest of their life. And that's why they're known as the lifelong insulin users. And this typically appears in the adolescents, so it's referred to as the juvenile diabetes. Next slide, please. Go to, is that the next slide? Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's the next slide.
Okay, you're good. So with type 1 diabetes, before we get into type 2, let me just explain a little bit. So what happens with that is that the insulin, don't forget, we refer to the insulin as a key that actually opens the cell and allows this glucose molecules to move from the blood into the cells. But what happens with type 1 is that the person does not produce its own insulin because those pancreatic cells are destroyed. So there is the glucose buildup in the blood. And as such, the cells are starving from the energy that comes from the glucose. And as the blood levels increase, if left untreated, it can really become a damage to the eyes, the kidneys, the nerves, the heart. It can even lead to coma and death. So that's a very severe form. Then there is the type 2 diabetes. So type 2 diabetes is the most common form of diabetes. It's chronic condition too. But the difference in this one is that the pancreas does not produce enough insulin. Don't forget type 1, the pancreas is damaged and does not produce insulin at all. So the person has to be insulin dependent. But with type 2, the pancreas may produce insulin, but not enough, or it resists the insulin. So with this one, it's known as a non-insulin dependent diabetes because there are other ways to control it. But some people may have to be on insulin. Some people may have to be on medication and may not need insulin. And some people can control it by eating healthy and exercising. Next slide, please. So the other form of diabetes is the gestational. Then there is the pre-diabetes. Pre, meaning before onset of diabetes. And this is a condition in which the blood sugar is high, but it's not high enough to be classified. That person, remember we said the range is about what, 5 points for A1C, about 5.7 to 6.4. So that's the pre. It's not high enough for them to become diabetic. And, but without intervention, because we said in the statistics that 88 million people are pre-diabetic, walking around, but slowly it's building up to into diabetes. So if left untreated, they will eventually become type 2 diabetes. So gestational diabetes occurs during pregnancy. And what happens is that during this time, sometimes those hormones, that support the baby to grow within the mother can actually block the action of the mother's insulin and causing insulin resistance. And when this insulin cannot, open that door to allow the glucose to go into the cells, glucose is going to accumulate in the blood and it's going to lead to high blood glucose, which is diabetes. In a nutshell, that's really what diabetes is. And I'm going to leave this time to Dr. Kaite Robert, who will talk about the causes, the signs and symptoms, and the risk factors that we have in diabetes. Thank you.
Next.
Dr.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Madam VP, for that eloquent presentation. Our presentation is just for everybody, just to alert you a little bit. We know that there's so much information out there for about diabetes, and we hear about a lot about it. And maybe most of us really have diabetes or know somebody that have diabetes. So as you could have seen in that alarming statistics, we just want to give you a little, maybe give you a little reminder and of what diabetes is all about and the consequences of it. So on my part, what I'm going to talk about is the causes of diabetes, and the rest of it you'll see in the slides. So really, what causes diabetes? The type 1 is not really well known what it is, but is definitely connected to genetics. So the gene play a big role with the type 1, and also with the type 2 is a combination of genetics and lifestyle factors, which you are going to see. Next slide, please. Anyway, we will talk about the risk later, but the lifestyle factors contribute a lot to the cause of type 2 diabetes. But type 1 is specifically related to the malfunctioning of the pancreatic cells that produces the insulin. So you might want to know, some of you might hear about it, signs and symptoms of diabetes. It comes like the most common symptoms that you will see are kind of like in a triad mode. It's you have excessive urination, you have increased thirst, you have increased hunger, unexplained weight loss, but the first three are usually like the very classic symptoms of it. And why is that? Madam VP had already explained what happens when the blood sugar builds up in the cells. That means your body, the blood sugar, this insulin is not there to open that gate for that, for the sugar that you've eaten, you know, all the EBA, all the things that we love to eat. So that insulin is not there. So the blood is accumulating in, the sugar is accumulating in your blood, causing your brain to tell them, okay, you're gonna, because then it causes the urine or the kidney to release, because the kidney is trying to get rid of the blood or the sugar in the blood. And then it's kind of like a vicious cycle. So when you have the buildup of the glucose in the system and it cannot be released, then the kidney want to get rid of it. And then that's why you drink. You go to the bathroom all the time. And then your brain is saying, oh, I am dry, your body is dry, so we need more water, and then it makes you to drink. And so it's kind of like goes around. So if you have any of those symptoms, or you hear anybody that talks about that, it would be a good thing for you to let them know, or maybe you need to see the doctor. Unexplained weight loss is a part of it because of that that vicious cycle that just happened, blurred vision and itchy skin. Next, please. So I mentioned a little bit about the risk factors and what causes diabetes. And you can see that genetically, some of the people that are diabetic get predisposed to it. And you hear Madam VP talks about pre-diabetes, and the alarming number of people that are going around with that knowledge, or with the pre-diabetic status, and they don't even know about it. So it is dangerous, because eventually these people, if it's not taken care of, eventually these people might truly become diabetic. And we talked about, she talked about gestational diabetes, which happens during pregnancy. And a lot of the pregnant women are very much at risk. We talked about elevated blood cholesterol, which is very common among us with the high blood pressure, but specifically to the African American heritage like us. It is alarmingly high in the African American communities. And then we have the rest of the ancestry that are related to that. Next, please. So we mentioned the risk factors. So you have the modifiable, and then the non-modifiable. And this is the modifiable are the things that we control, because as you heard about the type 2 diabetes, it has the genetic part of it and then also the environmental. The environmental aspect of it are the things that we can control. We can modify, which is weight loss. If you're obese, the best thing what you would do would be for you to try and lose the weight. Physical inactivity, the sedentary lifestyle, and you just come back and you just, oh, you're too tired to just take a walk around, and just having a indiscriminate kind of a diet without you watching what you can eat. But also you should know that hypertension is a major part of what it might put you at risk of diabetes, and specifically smoking. Those are the things that you could change. And alcohol is also included in this. And even though it's not showing in this picture, and the rest of it, the non-modifiable is your age, your gene, your family history, your race, and then it shows here that increasing age, because if you could see from that statistics that it was showing, people beyond age 65 are usually almost always at risk. And of course, if you are pregnant, you're also at risk, and you cannot change that because it's part of the lifestyle, the lives. And also there's also medication, certain kind of medication would put you at risk of becoming diabetic. Next, please. So why are we making a fuss about this diabetic situation? Because it kind of like, it gives you so many, it attacks so many parts of your body. It affects your brain, which can cause a stroke. So it's a major, considering that it's 2 to 4-fold increase in cardiovascular event and stroke. So you can imagine if you have hypertension in addition to that, that you are extremely at risk. And it also has diabetic retinopathy, leading cause of blindness in working age adult. Diabetic nephro, you know that a lot of the diabetic patients ends up on dialysis. So when you see patients that are on dialysis, most of the time, they're probably gonna have also hypertension and diabetic at the same time. But the thing that people are really, that they're fighting for is cardiovascular disease. Diabetes and impaired glucose tolerance increase cardiovascular risk in 3 to 8-fold. Next, please. Next, please. Next. So how do we manage this? You realize that we have a lot of ways to manage. Specifically, you see, we have medication that you can manage, you can take, but and also you can have injection. The medication by mouth that you can have, mostly you would be, if you're diabetic, you should be on metformin, because that's considered the first line of treatment and the most effective form of treatment. And then the doctor, once that is started, it could be added, something else could be added. And also the injection is nothing else but insulin. Next, please. So there are several. So, and then you have metformin that I mentioned, and then you have injectable insulin, and these are in different levels. You have rapid acting, you have short acting, you have intermediate, you have long acting. All of these is in combination to help you manage your diabetes. But specifically, the most important thing that you would do, can you go to next slide, please? Maybe it's my next person, would be the diet and exercise. And you're adding stopping smoking, and also, but specifically diet and exercise, can help you control your blood sugar, and will with the help of your doctor, and you might even need the medication, the oral medication, even because if it's not controlled, that's how you might trend down into having insulin. But it's really important that diet and exercise and that lifestyle changes that we talked about be a major part of your diabetic management protocol. Next, I think the next person would be my brother, Mr. Usara, living with diabetes. Next, please. Mr. Usara.
Hello, everybody can hear me. Thank you, Dr. Roberts.
Thank you.
Everybody can hear me well, please, right? Hello?
We are hearing
Can
you.
everybody hear me?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
hear
we
you
can
loud
hear
and clear.
Thank you, because earlier someone didn't hear me. Okay, so I'm basically going to not go into too much details. I think that Dr. Robert has covered a whole lot. Just to pinpoint this is what I think is a fun part of this presentation. Nitty gritty, boiling down. At least exercise 150 minutes a week. That's literally 30 minutes a day, or you can do more than 30 minutes a day, but that breaks down into 5 days. And you can literally do that in your house. You can go down your steps, up and down for 5 days, 30 minutes each. And healthy diet, she's already touched on that, so I wouldn't waste too much time on that. It says stop drinking. So note that information. It says stop drinking, because we're going to go down to slide that says something different. And then I will tell you there why that is relevant. Stop smoking. She's already gone through that. So we're going to not bother on that. The diabetic self-management education and support. Some of you may not be able to, may not have the opportunity to know where to get all this, most of this information. I can tell you that American Diabetes Association's website can give you vast array of resources that can help you, support groups and everything. Next slide. Enabling behavior changes. Basically know what you're doing, know your stuff, know how to take care of yourself, know where to get your resources, know where to get your information, know what questions to ask, who to call, okay? Changing your diet. I like to let people know that it's kind of difficult to determine what level of diet measurement usong. Iwa, musong Gary, and musong Ibom, and all that usong can really, what role they can really play into the whole dietitian supposed measurements. So I want to personally tell you that you can actually monitor how you eat your usong, but you still end up eating your usong. The simple fact of the way of eating usong is you don't want to eat it at night whatsoever. I would suggest that any time from 4 p.m., don't eat usong. Now, if you want to eat usong at breakfast, it's okay, and lunch, because then you're busy moving around. Another thing about eating swallow, some people call it swallow, some people call it balls, is that you can actually cut down on the quantity. I actually find it very difficult to finish half a cup, our regular measurement cup, not the big cup. And I used to, I make my balls very small. My swallows are very small. And you can do this by cutting down the size. It will be hard if you're someone that is used to eating the size of a fist, or swallowing a size of half of the size of your fist. But if you start to make it like a little one, like the middle finger, the tip of your little finger, it will be hard, but you can do it, because it has to do with you making a conscious effort to do that. You can get a dietitian to help you. You can monitor your carbohydrate, and that is why I was specifically talking about the usong aspect, because it's kind of hard for you to really determine how much carbs you're getting or not getting when you're eating what size of the swallow. Stay active, maintain healthy weight, manage your blood sugar. We won't go through that. The past presenters have already gone through that. Next slide, please. And it says refrain from excessive alcohol. Remember when the other slide that says stop alcohol, and this one says refrain from excessive alcohol intake. So that is kind of a contradiction, right? However, not in the sense that you're thinking. Now, if you know you can really actually afford to stop alcohol, do that. And if you know you cannot stop alcohol, you have to not do it excessively. Monitor it, monitor yourself. Basically, that's what it means. So it's not like a total contradiction. It's more of giving you an awareness to know what you're doing. You can still drink your alcohol, but don't kill yourself with it. Tobacco cessation. If you smoke, understand that the whole it's a whole lot of things that surround smoking, your lungs and how it affects your blood flow and how it affects everything in your system. Signs of low blood sugar, there are previous presenters have already gone through that. Make your health priority. We've already talked about that. I've already talked about DSMES, that's the diabetic self-management and education support. Talking about the support groups and getting to know what you need to know from where. I think that our chair, Dr. Ntekem, will take over from here. Thank you.
Oh, I want to say a very hearty thank you to all my presenters and supporters. And I hope that you guys have gotten a whole lot out of this small synopsis of what diabetes is about. The main thing for you to understand is to appropriately handle your diabetes, and especially when you have emergencies. Think ahead of what is to be, what you can expect, because if you're in some place where you don't get to eat your food on a regular basis, you begin to feel a tinge of dizziness. It might be your blood sugar is low. Please make sure you have a hot candy on hand just in case. Diabetes also affect your mental health. And even though some people do not believe that Akwa might have mental health issues, we truly do have mental health issues, and diabetes can affect it. And again, you need to continue to remember that diabetes, next slide, sir. Type 1 is not preventable. Type 2 is definitely preventable. As much as possible, make sure
Next
that you
slide,
get
please.
to see your healthcare provider. And next slide. And this comes to the end of concludes our presentation. And I'd like to say thank you so much for your participation. And audience, any questions, we would be pleased to answer your questions at this point.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ntekem and the healthcare team for the presentation. Please, we will take 3 questions. For sake of time, if we have questions, please. Okay, I see. We have Bisong Yobongusa. He has his hands up. Yes, Bisong, please, can you ask your question at this time?
You unmute. Could you unmute, sir? Normally, Yvonne, could you unmute?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to thank the organizers of this roadshow. I think it's very, very informative, and we need it from time to time. I've listened to all the presentation, and I didn't hear anything about Nigeria and Akwa Ibom. I know it is for us here, but then whatever we've gained here, we should take it to Nigeria. And because after I read about what's going to be said, I did research a little bit and find out that 3.9 Nigerians, or 3.9 million Nigerians suffer from diabetes. And out of that, when you go to the south, Akwa Ibom civil servants, 11.1% suffer from diabetes. Men 9%, women almost about 12%. And my question is, how are we going to advocate what we've learned here and help our fellows Akwa Ibomites change their lifestyle so that we can look at health issues differently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bisong. I'll go first, then the healthcare committee chair will add something to that. Actually, in the healthcare team, we've talked about during the medical mission, making the health education a part of it and creating awareness. That's something that we've discussed, and that's going to be one of the words, because education. That's the key thing in building knowledge. And that's one of the ways that we will go by. So I'll now call on Dr. Ntekem, if she has something to add to that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Quickbooks, for those statistics. Thanks for taking time to look at that. We were mostly focused for us here, like you said. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. In the many medical missions that we have, AKISAN has had in the many years. Education, specifically hypertension and diabetes, have been part of the medical mission project. So it's not just, we just don't go there just to do handling over. We do education and teach them, the people, the healthcare providers there and the patients, specifically on different topics. And this particular committee was tasked to provide the same, maybe not the medical mission portion of it, but the health portion of it to this community. And this is why we're doing the diaspora health information. And this is why we had diabetes. The extending it back home is also part of our call to duty. So that is something that we work on the minute we have opportunity to have a project in Nigeria. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ntekem. Please, yes, please.
Madam Moderator, I wanted to quickly thank that Mr. Yobon-san. Just in FYI, I have sent that flyer for this roadshow to as many forums that I have had access to in Nigeria, particularly a lot of them in Akwa Ibom. And I did encourage some of them, if they have the opportunity, to call in here to listen to this particular show. That I do understand also that it may be difficult for a lot of people who have problems with data and the timing convention. So thank you for that question and in the information that you found out. I did try my best to reach out to those there. Hopefully in future, we will do a massive campaign to get Akwa Ibom people to tune into these kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well said. And please, I just looked at the time. If it's very important, I would say let's move on to the next committee. But anybody has something very important to ask before we do that? Did I see a hand up? No.
Yeah, we have two hands up.
I see. Please, we can only take one, and I just.
Okay.
All
right, I'll leave it to Dr. Ikwan.
Dr. Whose hand? Dr. Ikwan? I missed it. Okay, I see Dr. Ikwan. Dr. Ikwan, please. Just thank you.
What I was going to ask is that when we were growing up, and even people back home, and when people have any sickness, and you had to give them glucose. And from the enlightenment that I gained from the eloquence and dynamic committee, glucose, from what I've heard, it could be, if it is too much glucose in your body, it turn out to cause what you guys call hyperglycemia, which can actually destroy the blood vessel. Why there's people still, still have that mentality of, giving people that high level of glucose, knowing that this could result in a causation of type 1 or type 2, type 1 diabetes. Could somebody explain that to me on my, to way backward? And then in addition, I should meet that 4 p.m. of Gary, you have to make it 8 p.m. That's it.
I'm going to take that real quick, Dr. Ikwan. The 4 p.m., Gary, is something that you have to get into slowly. However, as far as giving our people glucose back at home. Remember, we did not have that much transportation. We were doing a lot of walking. We were walking 5 miles to school. We were walking to the farm. We were doing a whole lot of activities, and you needed that boost of energy to be able to do all that activity. So therefore, the reason you needed the glucose was to be able to activate and keep the energy level that you were exerting. And today, everybody goes from the house into the car. Even those people who don't have cars have access to keke. And so not a whole lot of walking anymore. And this is why we tend to retain all the glucose in our system.
Madam Chair, point of information, please.
Yes,
please.
sir. Yes, ma'am.
No, I just wanted to add to what Mr. Sangha brought to our attention, which is back home. And we know that we hear a lot of, aside from you hearing somebody having diabetes, I think the major problem that we have back home is kidney disease, that we have people dying in numbers. So I am going to kind of like take this off the table and maybe put it back on the health committee so that we can take a look at this. We know that we've talked about it and we have the statistics and we plan education, but we really need to take a look at what are the things that we can do to mitigate all these issues, specifically in relation to the kidney disease that we have so many of our people dying back home. So thank you, Mr.
Please add stroke, please add stroke to that. Stroke is very, very rampant.
I am so happy that Dr. Robert is a part of the medical team. So this is something that we would obviously enable her, task her to delve into. Thank you for the assignment.
I would greatly oblige.
Thank you so much, the health team. Thank you. Hopefully, I mean, the next roadshow, we will have more things, and then all of that with how to help home people will be looked into. Thank you for the presentation. So please, the next is the Finance Committee. And it's chaired by Ms. Itawan James. Thank you, the able chair lady. Please take over. Let's see what's happening with AKISAN finances, how to manage it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Vice President. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Itawan James, and I represent the Finance Committee, and I have other people in the committee, able people versed with information for the committee that we were asked to handle. And so next slide. I'm not going to go over the names. We have, I'm sure you know us, but if not, whenever you have time, you take a look at the slides so you know who and who are part of this committee. And so next slide. Yeah, we were tasked with some responsibilities, and we know for an organization to thrive, we need to be transparent and accountable. And that has been lacking in our organization. And so we came up with some finance tracking system because our goal is to rebrand AKISAN. And how do we rebrand AKISAN? By making it great again. If I may borrow that slogan, we want to make AKISAN great again. Make it more exciting and make the people have faith, members have faith, where they can trust us with their monies, and donors also have faith in us. And so we have to think of ways to make that work. And then as a committee, we think that we can transition from our old ways of doing things to, that's from manual to a cloud-based system And so as a committee, we identified 2 areas, and that is adopting the QuickBooks and also having a finance budgeting template. So for us to present this, we will have the National Treasurer, who also doubles as the Vice Chair of this committee, to present the QuickBooks. And also we will have Mr. Isong Ekpeyon, who is a very good resource person that has been the BOT treasurer for 6 years. He's the one that will handle the budgeting template. And so at this point, I will hand over the presentation to Mrs. Lizzie Ekpeyon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Next
afternoon.
slide, please.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good. I am at a location, so sorry you can't see my face. I'm actually in a parking lot. Could you advance to the next slide, please? So one of the tools that we said, like the chairman said, we are looking at QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a premier accounting software for small businesses. It has various apps to enable integration with different platforms. QuickBooks was one of the smaller software company that started out way back. I think it started first as Quicken. And as it grew, it just advanced and it's become one of the most sought after softwares for small businesses. Next slide. So what are the benefits of us switching to QuickBooks? One of the main benefits that we would experience is that all our finances will be in one place. We would have a quicker and deeper insight into the organization's finances. And we'll also be able to have a fast and easy reporting for month end, meaning we'll be getting a monthly reporting from this system. And we'll also be able to report directly without manipulating any of our finances from January through December. Use just a click of a button and the information is there for the tax accountant to do their job. Next slide, please. So when we get into QuickBooks, this is a user interface, a dashboard, that the landing page where the accountant will come in. So the first thing you'll see, this is being clicked on project, but what you will see will be a page that looks like this. And it immediately tells you for either the month or for the year, depending on what your computer is set on, this is what you're looking at. This is your P&L. This is your bank statement. This is how much you have. And this is your cash flow that you have for the month. So this is a landing page or a dashboard for the system. Next slide, please. This next slide just shows us a sample reporting that we would get. So in other words, when we go on QuickBooks and the accountant does the financial statement for the month, this is a sample of that profit and loss statement that we would see. It does have a drill down capability in order if you were trying to look and see what makes up my installation under labor. You can click on that 7261 and it will give you the details to be able to see what makes that up. And that information is quite useful for the accountant and a treasurer who is trying to figure out what's going on. And if they cannot easily get in touch with the accountant, you can easily drill down and get that information on your own. Next slide, please. The next one here is another sample report, which is a balance sheet. And the balance sheet is basically just telling you this is your assets minus your liabilities, and this is what you have as your equity. So your asset example will be either your savings account or your checking account. Your liability will be if you're owing anybody any money. And your fixed assets will be if the association had any things such as computers or furniture that we want to track, and so on and so forth. You'll have this one-page report that will give you that detailed information. Next page, please. So after we've gone through and looked at least this wonderful report that we would get, I guess the first thing that will come to everyone's mind is, what is the cost? How much will it cost the organization to invest in something like this? Our option right now is to go through and use an external consultant to work on this for us. So with that, we would need an accountant to do the implementation of the software. Average cost for that ranges from $500 to $1,000. We will now have a monthly usage cost, which is you're paying the accountant or the consultant to be doing the monthly financials for you. That cost ranges from $60 to $350 per month. And then, of course, you also have to pay for the software. Because we're going cloud-based, the monthly subscription fee is $30 or $35 a month. QuickBooks does have a desktop version where it can just be installed in a computer or on a server. But because of how we are operating right now, I think the best thing for us is to go with that cloud-based. So that's why we have the monthly subscription fee on there. Now, the other option that we would have or even explore is if we were to use AKISAN in-house option, we would still need the accountant to do the implementation. So the cost is still $500 to $1,000. Your monthly usage cost, of course, will go away, and your monthly subscription fee will be $35. Next slide, please. We also went ahead and discussed preliminary cost analysis, at least for the first, second, and the third year. So on the whole, this is just to put it in a black and white and to show in perspective what the organization would be looking at in terms of a yearly cost. So with the wholesale cost, which is the accountant is the one that is subscribing for us, you will pay $420 a month, which is a $35 or $40 a month times 12. You'll have the implementation cost at $500, and you'll have the accountant's cost at $720. So your total on the first year, you're looking at a projected cost of $1,640. Our second year's cost will go down because we will not have that implementation cost anymore. So you're simply just paying for the subscription cost and you're paying for the monthly accountant's cost. So that brings us anywhere at $1,140. And again, these are estimates. These costs, it shouldn't be too much, but this is the range, the lower range of the cost that was presented earlier. The direct cost, if we chose to just not use the accountant and just pay for the subscription directly, we would have the subscription cost at $588. You'll have the implementation cost at $500 because you still need the accountant to implement QuickBooks. And you'll have the monthly accountant cost at $720. Year two, again, you will not have the implementation cost. That goes away. So you're only left with your monthly subscription and accounting fees, and that is $1,560, and year three, $1,560. So the main difference between the two is just that we are paying the monthly subscription fees directly from our bank account. Our option, again, is to go with an accountant. Next slide, please. So with QuickBooks, we said it has different integration that you are able to do. And one of the ones that I picked out here was Salesforce, because we've talked about, or the IT department has talked about maybe using Salesforce for customers relations, I guess. And QuickBooks has the capabilities to link that app with QuickBooks. And I'm quite sure there will be additional costs if we are to link Salesforce to QuickBooks, but I think that's what that premium up there means, to show you that there's additional costs involved. Other softwares that you can link to QuickBooks are Donor Receipts, Donor, and Kindful, and these were all from QuickBooks website. There are plenty of other apps that can be linked to QuickBooks. And next slide, please. So let's hold off questions for the QuickBooks portion, and let's listen to my next presenter, Mr. Akwa, who will go through the adoption of item or option 2, which is the budget template. And then after that, we can now answer questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam National Treasurer. Akwa here. So I'm not sure how this presentation is going to go. I'm heavily medicated. I've been taking some Winoki I sprained my ankle yesterday, so hopefully that medication doesn't make its way into my system and cause this to derail. But you know, before I get into the medication, I just wanted to say a few things here. When you look at where this association is from where it was, I'm highly inspired. But there's one thing that makes me a bit nervous. You know, leading up to this roadshow, you had numerous committees, numerous members of those committees putting in heavy hours to put together the documents that you're seeing here, previewing here as we're leading up to the council meeting. And I'm looking at the participant count, and I'm seeing that we've got somewhere between 27, 29 participants. So I want to, first of all, thank all of you that took the time out of your day to see what we have to offer. It's a lot to see that there's at least a few of you that are interested in what the members of this organization are doing to try to move this organization forward. And then I like to ask that we all reach out to our peers to get them more engaged, because I really think that if we were to come here and see 100 people, 100 participants, it will definitely energize those of us that are in the committee working hard, putting in long hours, the Constitution Committee, the Finance Committee, et cetera, to continue to put that time in. But when we look and see 27, 28, 29, it's like, is this time well spent? I know it is though. But anyway, let's get into the presentation. So what is the itemized budget template? You can see an image there on the top right. I'm going to go through a live demo as soon as I go through providing a high-level overview. It's a standard document that contains year-over-year comparison of budgeted revenue and expense items. It's going to also provide you a running tally of year-to-date where you are. And then there's some links to key itemized projects that are approved projects within the organization. The purpose of this budget template is to streamline the budget approval and statusing process. And again, we're going to use all of those features that we see above under what it is to help us with that process. The usage of this document is for the national executive. Of course, at the first council meeting in November, that's typically where the budget process starts. And so that's when we will begin to utilize this document. And the implementation is specific to getting approval so that this document can be added as a template in the AKISAN finance manual. We could have gone and just made updates and revised this template and done that behind the scenes, but we want it to be part and parcel of the finance manual to make it official so that if there's an executive that's not using it, then we should reject that budget document that they're using on the spot if it's not this item here. So at this point, let me go and provide a quick live demo. I'm not sure how I'm doing on timing.
You're doing good on time. So I'll stop sharing. You could take over sharing to go through.
All right, great. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can see.
All right, perfect. So I'm kind of pre-shadowing here. At some point, we should have an association in Alaska. So I'll be looking forward to going to Alaska and spending my August month there. But anyway, when you look at the budget template, we have all of the revenue items to the left that we typically see on a year-to-year basis. These are fairly standard. I'm not going to repeat them. We have high-level columns that captures and segregates each of these items between dues and startup, convention-related activities, fundraising-related activities on the revenue side. I'm going to quickly scroll down to the expense side, National Secretariat-related expenses, convention, service providers, portfolios, community relations projects, and these are all approved projects that we have that are ongoing. It doesn't mean that any one of them is active, but they've already been approved at the convention. And so if there's funding, it can be executed. And Board of Trustees. So this is pretty typical of what we would see from some of our past variants of the proposed budget documents that have been used. But what we've done differently here is that we've set up columns or multiple columns here that would provide us with information on the spot in terms of how we did last year. So we have a point of reference. relative to last year's performance, what was budgeted last year, what was realized. And that's important, especially on the revenue side, when we begin to throw in these huge numbers in revenue. Oh, we're going to raise 300,000, 500,000. Well, how much did we raise last year for that particular line item? And so that's one of the key benefits of this document. It also provides year-to-date performance, right? So for example, the revenue side, I really only, I approached it as if we were going into a budget approval process. So year-to-date actual should be 0 because you haven't realized any of these yet, right? Unless you had by the time we get to that council meeting in November. But if you hadn't, then all these will be 0. So let's move quickly to the expense side. So this first column on the expense side, I did a fast forward. Let's assume that we're in the process of operating within the year of that particular president. And so at some point, we've spent $250 on telephone. The approved budget's at $500. So right now we're about $250 under budget for that particular line item. And so it's true for these other line items here. Let's say for travel, if what was approved for travel was $10,000, the executive spent $12,000. Well, they're 20% over the budget, et cetera. And so it gives you, again, it gives you a snapshot of where they were last year. And so that as you're going through this budgeting process, you've got a good place to start. Another feature that this budget has is that it's tied to, if you look across the bottom, we have itemized projects tabs there that are there. So for example, the itemized medical mission. So if we go to that tab, let me zoom in a little bit. So the itemized medical mission, typically when we do medical missions, we cover 3 senatorial districts. And it doesn't mean that we have to use all 3. You use whichever 2, whatever formula works for the medical mission that's being executed. But what you see is that the approved budget here, this is an input, right? So this is coming in as an input from the main budgeting page that we were just looking at. So let's say if we were to go back and at the joint council, we approved, instead of approving 20,000, we said, well, medical mission, we want it to be 60,000 like it was a couple of years ago, right? So 60,000. So when we jump back to that itemized budget, 60,000 is the approved budget that has been allocated to execute this medical mission. So year-to-date actual is where are we? What has been disbursed for this project? And let's assume 20,000 was disbursed for the project. And let's say that we spent a total of 20,000 on a flight to Nigeria. Right. So 20,000 spent on a flight to Nigeria. When we go back to the main budgeting page and we slide down to expenses, you're going to see that year-to-date realized expenses on the expense side, because that's where we are, the expense side. We spent $20,000 year-to-date. The approved budget is 60. Again, I changed, I went from 20 to 60. So let's go back to 20,000 approved budget. Right. So we scroll back down and yeah, so medical mission, 20,000. So there's links that are set up in this document that makes it much more effective versus what we've had before. And the same is true for the scholarship. And we're working on building one for the cultural center. Obviously, we haven't executed anything with respect to the cultural center. And then we've got a few other tabs here that we're going to look to build. But again, this is a powerful document that we feel would really begin to move us forward in the budgeting process, you know, and keep us organized. So that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you so much. And just to ask, is that the conclusion for the?
Hey, son, could you take down your share?
Yeah, let me stop that.
So thank you so much, Finance Committee. That's a great presentation. And it really shows how we can move our AKISAN organization to a stronger organization, more accountable, very standardized.
Yeah.
Please, do we have any questions? Any questions to the finance team, committee team?
Madam VP.
Yes, please. Is that Dr. Ntekum?
Yes, ma'am. Can I ask Isan why he chose medical mission for the example? Is there a bias here?
Oh, come on.
No bias. I think that medical missions are very important, and if we can just save one life from one medical mission, and it costs us 10,000, 20,000, what is the value of a person's life? So no, it's not. There's no bias there. I just think that that's an area where we've needed to be a little more structured and organized with our budgeting and approval process. So it made sense to start with that one.
Thank you very much.
Just kidding.
and really, that's a great answer too. Thank you so much, the chair, Ms. Itawan.
Thank you.
I noted a few things that she said. It's about transparency, accountability, rebranding AKISAN, making AKISAN great again. And that is very crucial.
Yes.
It's all about having our members have faith and trust in us and our donors. So it's a great thing to look into, where we can have everything transparent enough for people to see. We don't have to be accountants to understand it, but we can see the chat. When it's written there, it fills itself up. We can see it. We can believe it. It speaks for itself, and we can see the money. And that is what the national president is all about. That's his vision, to set AKISAN in a path that is gonna make it stronger, more accountable, visible, and transparent. Thank you so much. So in the absence of any questions, any more questions?
Madam VP, I have a question.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Just a comment. I'm part of the finance committee and really wanted to thank Chair and the presenters and the entire committee. Everybody knows finance is a absolutely critical item within the association. A lot of people are reluctant to give because they don't trust our finances. So the presentation by Honorable Liz and the infrastructure that the team wants to put in place is to show that, we stop tracking AKISAN and napkins and spreadsheets, thousands of spreadsheets, really bring all that information to a central place, have a cross-pollination of insight into our finances to help protect the integrity of the financial system. We believe that you put a solid financial infrastructure in place, that will bring back a lot of donors, we'll raise money, we'll run AKISAN as a professional entity, and show folks that the funds that they present and they donate will be used and protected. So just want to make a comment. I know we didn't hear a lot of questions out there, but it's a critical and important piece of the transformation that the national president envisioning and the cabinet. So thank you. Back over to you, Madam VP.
Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. Kiko, for that addition. Yes, and now it's the Welfare Committee's time to present. And I am the chair of that committee. And here we are talking about the community, our AKISAN community. Please, Dr. Kiko, thank you for loading that slide.
Hang on.
The slide is not up. Okay, that's it. Thank you. So our AKISAN community, the welfare committee is all about community. And we are here because we want to build a stronger community. And thank you, Mr. Song Ekmeyong, for the comment that you made about the number of people. I took note of how many people we have now. We've gone to 33. And I'm really hoping that we will leave this place to spread the news about our road shows, be a part of the movement to grow these conversations, and so that the next road show, we will have a lot more people and bring our community together. So together, next slide, please. Looking at it from the welfare perspective, we say together we can, first of all, our members, thank you. I'm not gonna read names, but that's the members of the welfare committee. And please, the next slide, please. So we say that as a community, we create unique experiences to one another. And that's a sense of belonging and relatedness that support growth, which is why we're here. This is part of it. Belonging, a sense of sharing that stimulates innovation and growth. That's what just happened. We shared ideas. The people in the finance committee came in, shared new ideas of innovation and setting us on a path to grow. Connections that build valuable I'm sorry. Connections that build valuable relationships. When we come together, we get to know one another. We get to know what each other is doing. We can benefit from these relationships, and we move, not just talking about things, but beginning to create things that can actually set us on a path of progress. And learning resources that increase our collective value. So what happens when each person comes with something good on the table, collectively, we add value to our organization and we add value to ourselves as individuals. And that takes us into a passion where we can begin, we really continue to do the things we do for the underprivileged. We remember the people back at home, like this national presidents leading this team, the executive. We are doing projects. We have the IT Hut. We have so many things trying to do in Akwa Ibom State, which is to help our underprivileged community there. And here too, we have different chapter presidents that are doing things in AKISAN. Florida did it, Washington, I can't even name them, within this US community. And that's what AKISAN stands for. And what does it do? It gives a balance between our physical and mental fitness. That is crucial for existence. Next slide, please. So together we build our rich culture. We have a rich culture and we are here to showcase it. We showcase it through our songs, and that's just a picture of one of the, it didn't come out too good, but that's our culture. This was at AKISAN convention. The dances, our folklore, our food, our clothing attires, and the celebrations. And that's what we try to teach our children so that they can always remember our culture. That's what our community does. Next slide, please. And the welfare committee. As a committee, we have a reach out program. And that reach out program is to build connection to AKISAN chapters. I like to always say that there would never be a national without the chapters, because the AKISAN is a chapter organization. That's the root, that's the foundation. So whatever happens, the national has to reach out to the chapters. And that's what the welfare committee is trying to do now, building that relationship, getting that bridge where we can cross and understand what is happening. So we are joining the chapter meetings. Personally, I have joined a few yet. And through that, it allows us to know the members of AKISAN in these chapters, not just names, but see the faces and welcome suggestions and questions, because we cannot perform very well until we hear from the people. It's about the people. It's not just about being AKISAN national, but about the people. So we have to listen to the people, answer their questions, find answers to it, see how to include their suggestions to make it inclusive. So the Welfare Committee, as we enter this forum, we highlight the Welfare Committee programs, which I'll talk about it too. But connection is one of it. And what this does is strengthen the communications and networking between the chapters and the people. So another thing that we do, next slide, please, is Welfare Committee, the life insurance. We've been talking about the life insurance. Is to help us, because no one knows the day, but please, if you check our website, we have the life insurance link. This is very crucial, having a little thing that can comfortably give us a final resting place. It depends on what our needs are. Some people that want to be taken home, please make that provision. Some people that want to stay here, finally, that's fine. Make that provision. It's all about how much money is needed and how do we have prepare for this. So please, the life insurance is one way. So this executive led by our president came into that idea, and we're using our people because our money has to stay within our community. So on our website, we have the agents that are handling this. So please visit AKISAN, www.akisan.org, and sign up, sign up, sign up. That's why I put a caution. Sign up. Thank you. Next slide, please. So Welfare Committee, one part, another thing that we thought about building a stronger community is looking at our bereaved AKISAN member family. Reach out to the family. It doesn't take much. It's all about sending flowers, sending a fruit basket. We want you to know that we are thinking of you, praying for you, and grieving with you. Those are words of comfort. It allows members to know that people have noticed that something is wrong with them. They have an incident. They're surrounded by a family, a community that can reach out. It's not all about money, but it's about reaching out. So that's part of the Welfare Committee program, reaching to these bereaved AKISAN members. That's when an AKISAN member passes on, just touching that family. Next slide, please. So to do this, it doesn't take much, but in the forums that I've attended, I like to say, please donate. Donate to our cause. We want to send some love to our bereaved member families. Donate towards flowers or fruit basket. And it's so easily done. After this roadshow, I will resend the link that we have. Nothing is too small. We have $25, $50, $100, whatever anybody chooses to do. Because right now, we cannot really start this until we have some funds. And we still have our members that have passed on, but it will be great to start that at some point. So please, you can text welfare to 44321 also and make that donation. Next slide, please. And I just want to say that together we can build a stronger AKISAN. Yes, we can. So let's do it. And this is part of taking this association to the level that we want to see. So please support the welfare committee, and individually, whatever we can do, let us be our brother's keeper. Let us interact better. Let us reach out with words that are meaningful. Let us help raise one another up than put each other down. Let's believe in ourselves and let's hold one another accountable, because that's what's going to change how we think about one another. Thank you. And that's the end of this presentation. And if anybody has anything to say, please, this is the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Please, it's your time. Thank you.
Honorable Sam, please unmute the line.
Thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. I want to observe one in the culture, what you listed in the culture. We left out a very important ingredient of culture, which is language, indigenous language. Please, let's include that in the culture.
Thank you.
Number two, I wish there was a way we can make this presentation at the National Convention, where we can reach at least 30% of the attendance, because it is very touching, it is very informative, and it is very inviting for those who are skeptical about this organization. So think about that when you draw up the program for the National Convention. Somewhere along the line, our National Convention has been lacking an address by the president for a long time. Even if the president doesn't address, the chairman of this organization, of this particular committee, should be given a chance to let people in the convention know what AKISAN is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yeah, just one comment, Madam VP, to the point that Honorable Sam made. The great news is the president of the 2021 Convention Planning Committee, the chair is on the line, so hopefully he heard your remarks. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have my hand raised.
Yes. Also, Achusor is next.
Mr. Achi, you're next, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice President. That was a very touching presentation, as our Oyobong has alluded to. So I appreciate that. One other thing I wanted to contribute, more like add to that presentation, is that what you have said also has relativity to this particular presentation today, this event. I think it's also a thing of welfare that we do as much as possible to disseminate information and encourage people to attend these kinds of events. It's also a welfare avenue, because a lot of people would learn things about diabetes, would learn how to connect, how to touch other people during bereavement, would learn things about finances that have been presented today. And today there's going to be constitutional review report. So many people do not know the constitution of AKISAN. So when they go to the national, the convention, and or some chapter presidents, or those that go to council meetings, they don't know what to do when someone is abrogating the provisions of AKISAN constitution. This is the opportunity to be sure that people do a good job at bringing people to these kinds of, we do as much as we can to bring people to these kinds of forums so that people are informed and educated on what they need to know. It's part of welfare. That's what I wanted to contribute.
Thank you so much, Mr. Achusor. Very well noted. Yes, the welfare committee currently, yes, in fact, I can say it here, I divided everyone into chapters, and they to connect with the chapters. because this is very integral to the growth of this organization. And I encourage every one of us, because it's always going to be everyone's effort. It's two parts of it: the membership, the general membership, and the youth. So please, let's make it a business. Let's come together and build this organization. Let us see where it can go to, because it can go to great places. And it's just us that can do this, and we can. Thank you for that addition. And in any further, one more, if we have anything, then we have to hand over to the Constitution Committee, because that's a large presentation. Okay, thank you. The chairman of that committee is Mr. Hugh Ete. And please, it's your time. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam VP, thank you so much. Engineer Chigo, take the screen off for a second, then we'll come back to the screen. I'll let you know when to launch it. So, Madam VP, EVP, I have to make sure I add the right title. Thank you so much for the presentation so far. I want to also appreciate all the other previous presenters, the beauty pageant, the welfare, the finance committees that have presented. So, and also I think we have one more. Who did I miss? We had welfare, we had welfare and health also presented. So I want to appreciate those entities or those other groups that presented as well. I really want to appreciate our president. You know, the trajectory of this organization was completely different a few months ago. And here we are discussing things that really benefit the organization. We're staying on the issues that we can resolve. We're not talking about personalities. And so I think that's a very good trajectory that the organization is going. Is at its infancy. So we have to nurture it. We have to grow it. We have to take it to where it needs to be. We have to protect it. And so that's part of the things that we're trying to do here as a group. So let me also appreciate the members of the Constitution Committee, that we have a diverse group. And I had covered these, and when we did the first Roadshow back in November, I had covered it. We have 7 chapter presidents, all from different chapters. Actually, the total of the 11 members come from all different chapters. So the group that we have is a complete representation of AKISAN. We have 2 previous board members who had served 6 terms, 6 years each. So we have 2 previous board members. We have 2 legal counsel on the Constitution Committee, the current legal counsel and the prior legal counsel, Mike Eshen, who's served for many, many years. And then we have a number of chapter presidents who have been on the trenches for 1.5 years now, before we got to this particular point. So I really want to appreciate them. It has been a team effort. When we debate issues. Everybody brings a passion. Sometimes one person convinces the other person. In fact, sometimes my position is not the one that the team goes for, but that's fine. But they do it for the benefit of the organization. So today, what we want to do is share with you some of the key changes that the Constitution Committee is proposing, that is bringing forth. What we were charged with is to look at the entire Constitution and bring forth changes that is going to position AKISAN in a much better shape for the future. And so that's what we've done. So we'll look at the key changes. Today's discussion is not really going to be more of a presentation. It's going to be more of a discussion. So a lot of time will be allocated to Q&A. So it's truly going to be more like a town hall. We'll give you the pointers, share the ideas that we have, give you some color commentaries as to why we went that route, and then we'll open up for questions. So the majority of the time will be spent for Q&A. So for those who have questions, I want to encourage you to either type it in the chat line, we'll catch it that way. If it's something that you want to really just ask questions, you can raise your hand. There are a number of us from the Constitution Committee that are here, and we'll capture it, and the ones that we can address, we'll address it. The ones that require thoughts, we'll take it away and do some deliberation within the committee, even if that means bringing you to explain it to us. So with that said, Dr. Kiko, please go ahead and put up the slide. So we only have like a one pager, but this one pager is rich with information. In fact, to just sort of give you a status where we are, we have completed not only writing most of these changes into the Constitution, but also we have also completed the entire review of the Constitution. It is now in the hands of a legal review, and so they will go through it. And once they are complete their legal review, we will be able to release it to the governing bodies. Hopefully, we'll want to do that before the council meeting. So let's go through the changes. There's really four major categories of the changes: structural, electoral. Electoral is really a subset of structure, financial changes, and there's other that we classified as miscellaneous. So we'll start with the structural. We have already presented this key aspect of the structural changes. So we're going to a proposal, the committee is proposing restructure AKISAN so that we have three governing branches underneath the convention. So we still have a national executive, we're adding the council or chapter presidents, and then we still have a board of trustees. These three branches will have distinct roles, and I'll mention on a very high level what those are, but they have to work collaboratively for the benefit of the organizations. So the three will be underneath the convention. So the three branches, those three branches will form the new Joint National Council. So it will stay permanent. It will not be partial council one half of the year. It will be a permanent Joint National Council. That's what they will form. So our national executive will concentrate on executing. And the council of chapter president, if you think about it, they represent all the membership. All the membership comes from chapters. They will be mostly responsible for legislation and oversight. And our board will still be responsible for financial, setting financial standard, managing our money, providing those fiduciary responsibilities to make sure our finances are managed well. Item number 2, we are clarifying the difference between a standing and ad hoc committees. So right now, under the committee section, they're all sort of kind of mingled up. So we'll clarify that. The standing committee will be committees that the Constitution can create, and only the Constitution can create and dissolve those standing committees. And then there will be ad hoc committees that any of the governing branches can create. And any governing branch that is given the authority to create a committee can also dissolve that committee. And so we'll clarify what those are. As part of the key changes that we have in AKISAN is the creation of 2 standing committees. So that will be the Policy/Constitution Committee. Remember, I was telling you that all the chapter presidents are really representing the entire membership. So if you're going to make a policy, it would be best that it originate from that governing branch that has all the representation. So any legislation or policy or changes to the Constitution would originate through council or chapter presidents. So we're going to create a policy standing committee that will report through the council of chapter president, but they will have representation from all the 3 governing branches. So all these standing committees, the way we have forced collaboration is that they have representation from all the governing branches. We also will have a budget/finance committee. And because we know our money is being managed through the board of trustees, they will report through the board of trustees. And again, they will have members from all the governing branches. So there will be representation from the council or chapter president, the national executive, as well as the board of trustees itself. Number 3, one of the key things that we have done to cut down on a lot of the issues that we have with elections is create an electoral committee. So the electoral committee will be responsible for conducting elections or certifying the results. And I'll talk a little bit more about the certifying the results one on item 4. So anything to elect the board of trustees, to elect the legal counsel, to elect the auditors, those will all now be under the auspices of the electoral committee. The certification The validation, the confirmation of who will become the national president will also be the responsibility of the electoral committee. We have changed the way we have recommended changing the way we elect a national president. The delegate process offered a lot of issues in the past. You know, people were manufacturing delegates at the end, you know, close to the convention, or in some cases, new chapters will spring up right before the convention. Well, we remove all those incentives. So what will happen is that the chapters will decide who they want to support for the president. And so whoever is running to be president needs to convince a majority of the chapters to support him or her. So for instance, we have 29 chapters. That person running for the president needs to go and convince at least 15 of those chapters to support them. It will make it very, very difficult for someone to just manufacture some chapters at the end to be able to win the presidency. It will also allow them to be in touch with the chapters. So the chapters now still have the incentive, because one of the incentives that the chapter used would use this opportunity to raise funds and do membership drive. They still can do that. But that whole fight about delegated and national, that whole idea goes away. So the national president, the way we would decide a national president will be the individual contesting to be our president will pretty much go through almost all the chapters, as many, at least a majority of the chapters, to be able to win. And then come the business meeting of the convention, the electoral committee will certify or will verify, will validate during that time who actually won. There is going to be a verifiable way to know who these chapters voted for. So it's not going to be fictitious. So number 5, we've created the Office of National Financial Secretary. The role of collecting money, the custody of funds, that's been the challenge for us here in AKISAN. So the financial secretary is supposed to come in and help maintain that custody, chain of custody in handling our funds. We have also directed the use of AKISAN Finance Manual. In the past, we had heard that this manual was not being used because it was not mentioned in the Constitution. Well, we have solved that problem. We have directed its use, and it's being mentioned in the Constitution. So that office, the National Financial Secretary, will work collaboratively with the treasurer to ensure that we collect money, AKISAN money. It goes through the proper way of depositing the money, and then we can account for those funds. So 2 things that we have there in the financial area. We're going to use the AKISAN Finance Manual, Policy and Procedures Manual as a guide. And we also have a finance secretary to help with that duties. And there's a lot of other areas that we also kind of put in that will help in terms of clarifying and understanding things. So when we go down to number 7, we provided a glossary of terms. So right off the bat, you know, a lot of the definition that we have in the Constitution is actually buried inside the Constitution. Some of the key terms, chapter in good standing, member in good standing, what authorizes you to, what gives you the, how do you know that you're in good standing to vote? Those type of definitions or glossary of terms are defined right up front. We have a glossary right in the first page of the Constitution to give you that information. We're also making a recommendation that the national president be able to draw 2 positions outside his or her cabinet. This really came into play in terms of, it will help some chapters that are smaller. It will also help to fill some specialty skills. If you think about it, let's say, for instance, you have a chapter and you really need someone with financial skills or CPA. If you can draw from another chapter, that really helps the association. We didn't want it such that he can draw a whole bunch of people. He or she can draw from a whole bunch of resources. Then, you know, the chapter really would not be able to really host the secretariat. Remember, AKISAN secretariat is really awarded to chapters. So you still have to have resources there. But where you needed a specialty skill, this is one where you can fill it. Or where you needed some additional help, maybe because I know, for instance, I was sharing this with people when one of the small chapters, if they win the presidency, almost all the officers leave the local chapter and they now want to be in the national. So it will help in such situations so that you have other areas that you can draw resources from just from your local chapter. Number 9, we have also recommended that the national president be allowed to run for a second term. 2 years is very short to be able to, by the time you putting your plans together, by the time you get to execution, 2 years is up. I'm actually very impressed where we are right now with this current administration, where we are. But typically, by the time you start putting things together, your 1 year is gone. And so we are recommending, well, someone has done a good job and they want to run again, sure, let them run. They should be able to run for a second term. And number 10 is really more of a result of a structural. Since, before we used to have these, all the chapter president were referred to as national vice president in the Constitution. We have removed that. So chapter presidents are just chapter president. They're chapter presidents. They're a member of the Council of Chapter Presidents. So there's no need to have that executive by the VP's title anymore. Number 11, of course, is a sign of the times. We have to be able to have non-face-to-face meetings or elections. So the Constitution had provided for that. So just in case there's anything like that comes out again, I think you guys had fun with. My brother, Engineer Kiko, still remember the day. Was that May 6th? May 6th.
Remember it well.
No, virtual meeting is not binding. Well, we've taken that away, so it will be binding going forward. And then the last part, the number 12, is really about anything to require constitutional changes is a 2/3 majority. It's already a 2/3 majority at the council, a joint council at the council right now. So it will also require 2/3 majority at that first level governing body of the Council of Chapter Presidents. So it will be 2/3 at the council. It will be 2/3 at the Council of Chapter Presidents. It will also be 2/3 at the Joint National Council. And then it will also be 2/3 at the convention for it to pass, to be adopted within the Constitution. So those are the main major things that we are recommending. There are some other cleanup minor things, but these are really the major bullets that I wanted to share. So now we want to open it up for feedback, questions, comment, things we can take away. Did some people type in anything in the chat room?
No, I did not see any. Engineer Kiko, did you see it?
I did not see any chats.
Yes, I see 2 hands up. I see Dr. one first hand and Dr. Ibrahim second hand.
You can take the presentation off. I pretty much know what some of those are. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not gonna. I think most of us have seen this document, and I'm not gonna be very inquisitive. I think the very last bullet point, I'm trying to understand, or maybe not understanding, when we said 2/3 adoption at the convention. How do we quantify that? At the convention is the overall voice of AKISAN, everything, the box stop there. How do we measure the 2/3 at the convention? Is that the 2/3 attendance at the convention, and or the 2/3 attendance at the business meeting? Could that be specified a little? That way there is no ambiguity going forward.
Okay, yes, that's actually a good question. Yeah, so this version of what you're looking at is what we call shorthand. So the shorthand form is what you're looking at. So anything that requires constitutional adoption is done at the business meeting. There's nothing done during the cultural night or the fundraising night. Everything that requires adoption by the Constitution will be done at the business meeting. And it requires that those who are present and eligible to vote, it requires 2/3 of those present and eligible to vote to adopt that particular section of the constitutional item that we're recommending.
I think you just hit it right there. Present and eligible to vote.
Correct.
Could that be an addendum to that area added? As you know, we have that issue before when everybody comes in, they don't have the badge and they don't register. They come to the convention that they feel that they're going to filibuster the convention. So could that be where that eligible to vote and qualified to vote? Could that be something that we might want to make sure we tighten that little loophole in case we have any issue?
Yes, so part of the challenge we have is always been implementation. It's not so much the definition. So in the Constitution itself, in fact, right at the beginning of the glossary, we have defined two things. One, a chapter that is in good standing, and a member that is in good standing. So where a member is in good standing, that means that person can vote. So what happens is that the convention, where there has not been an implementation, in other words, let's give you an example. I can mediate the convention, and I'm just a visitor. There should be a way to identify who I am as a visitor, so I should not be able to vote. So is the implementation, is not the documentation, is how we execute at the convention that we have to ensure that it's enforced to match the Constitution. Okay, I see some hands up. I don't know who came first, so you let me know.
I got it queued up. Madam VP, I'm putting a text and a thing to see how they're coming in.
Yes, I saw that. That's the next person is ID Akbok, Dr. ID Akbok.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam
Achu
VP.
Soro. Achu Soro next, and our chair, convention chair, gentleman, is the gentleman Itemized next. That's the order.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam VP, and thank you, Chairman of the review committee. And we really do appreciate the good work that you're doing. What stands out for me was the election process. And you said, of course, I mean, it makes it easier now that the election is going to be done directly by the chapter president. So there's no suspicions and all those complications that went with electing presidents in the last regimes and all that. That makes it pretty much straightforward and very easy. But then you said, but the process of then electing the president now, I would suggest that it becomes like an open ballot where everybody, where the president is called out and he tells us who the chapter, because if the president is one person and the majority or maybe the entire chapter decide to elect a particular person as the president, that way he doesn't have his own personal, the prejudice that goes with who he in person wants to elect. If it is done by closed or hidden ballot in this new circumstances. So it has to be an open ballot so everybody knows who the president of each chapter has elected. That way, if he goes contrary to the opinions or the general obtainable opinions of his chapter, then he would go back home and face the dance. So we would suggest that henceforth the election of president be open, and then the chapter president are called out, and everybody have a record of who they voted for transparency, and I think that would conclude better options in electing president. I don't know if that makes sense, but thank you so much. That's what I observed.
The beauty of working from home is your children think they can bargain anytime they feel like it. My daughter wants $3. She wants to give her money right now. Anyway, so thank you so much, my brother. Actually, your questions is actually an easy one. Yes, where the Constitution has stipulated that all elections will be open ballots. The only time that it will not be is where there is no possibility to verify. Let's say we do an electronic type election type situation. We decide to use, I'll just give you an example. We decide to implement some kind of polling, electronic polling, where you're not able to verify. In fact, even those polling self, you have the ability to verify. Or what we're doing in election whereby the number is so large, you want everybody to vote and there's 1,000 of them. You may not be able to do what we call open ballot because it's really electronified. And those are usually basically people hit a button. But anything to do with presidential election is open ballot. We will know who voted for what at the local election, and we will also know who we certify for at the business meeting. So secret ballot is out. We don't, secret ballot, let me just put it to you this way. Anything to do with secrecy has created so much problems, not just for us here, but is the basis of a lot of our problems. Because we say one thing and we go and do another thing. So the Constitution Committee debated this issue quite a bit. In fact, it was unanimous that everybody agreed that it was time to get rid of anything to do with secret ballots. So secret ballots is out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next person, Chairman, gentleman, Itemized, please. Oh, I think it was Archie. It was Archie. It was Archie. I'm sorry. Archie, Sarah, please. Then next,
Okay.
Gentleman.
Okay, Madam VP.
No. Yes.
I still love you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Listen. Everyone hear me, please. I want to make sure you can hear me. Everybody can hear me, please.
We can hear you, but you're in a wind tunnel.
I am in a wind tunnel. Okay, let me pause. Okay. A quick comment and a question. First, quick comment. Let us be a little in view of what our gentleman Kwan pointed out about that majority, 2/3 majority. I do know it's kind of like a literature representation, may not necessarily translate into practicality, because when you go into the actual convention, like Hewitt said, it's kind of difficult to be able to determine who is actual qualified member of the particular chapter, given the fact that you do have visitors internationally and locally meaning within the US. So let's be careful on the language there, because you don't want people to come up and try to be smarter than you, thinking that 2/3 majority or blah, blah, blah. If you're just using simple majority, they'll come up with their own theories. That's number one. Number two, question. Have you guys been able to factor in in the constitutional review, the possibility of monitoring those allegedly those family-only chapters, the one family, one person chapters, how to monitor them so they don't have legitimacy since they don't have the qualifications of being a chapter, which we have ignored in the past to determine their legitimacy to be a chapter. Have you guys put in place modalities to be able to determine these chapters' viability, especially when it's going to happen in this relinquishing the authority of electing the president to respective chapters? That's my question.
Thank you, my brother, for that question. Your question is not an easy one. I may actually pass the baton and let somebody take it. Let me see. We have a number of people in the Constitution Committee here in this particular call. I'll kind of start, but I'll probably pass the baton. So within AKISAN, we had a number of challenges. And so we had to rank them. You know, which one is the number one thing that we can do? We can't boil an ocean in one swoop. So financial was big, you know, within AKISAN, you know, having oversight on what we do, how we structure, how we bring policies up. There were some really big things, how we elect our leadership. They were huge. So what the Constitution Committee did was rank those things and put them in the proper place and take those on. In fact, I think there may be one or two or three things that we kind of like says, we can't chew this right now. Let's move this. Let's get this Big Rocks. Have you anybody ever listened to a story called Big Rocks? Big Rocks? Nobody's listened to that story? Okay, let me see if I can do a quick, I'm just gonna do a little quick paraphrasing of what the story about Big Rocks is. He's a teacher that was trying to demonstrate a point to the students in class. And so these were brand new students. They're all excited about going to school. So this instructor went out there and said he wants to do an experiment. So he brought a big jar out. And so what he did was he picked these big rocks inside it. He put a bunch of big rocks inside this jar. And then he asked the students, is this jar full? Because he filled it, but there's a lot of big cracks, big rocks, big cracks, big opportunity to put things. And some students, some were kind of hesitant, say, well, he asked them, is this jar full? They said, some kind of say, some say full, some say, So he said, okay. So since you guys not sure. So he went and baked some smaller rocks and he's stepping these smaller rocks in the jar. And those rocks kind of fill some of the crevices, And then he asked them again, is this jar full? And then some of them think they've caught onto his trick, and some of them say, well, they're not really sure. Some say yes, some say no. And then he said, okay. And then he brought some tiny little gravels and he poured it inside that jar. And then those tiny little gravels start filling up all this little, crack of space, and it almost full. He filled the jar up, and he asked them, is this jar full? And someone said, yeah. And then he said, okay. And then he brought sand, and he filled the sand up, and the sand took up all those space. And they said, is this jar full? Then, of course, they caught on. They said, no, it's not full. He said, no. So he went and he got some water and he poured it on. So what I'm trying to say is, what we did was we put the big rocks first, and then the big gravels. And then there are other things that we'll have to look at for another day. So if anybody from the Constitution Committee can help me out with that question, please take a shot at it.
Mr. Chairman, Edemandi, let me go. We did discuss this, Archie. The discussion came up. It's not like we didn't think about it. It came up. Now, the details of the process has not been described in details. I think when it's sent out, members of council will read through these details. The arrangement is that, the proposal is that every chapter will have to hold and announce an election meeting, and in advance, and the election committee will either send a representative, or the representative can attend, physically if it's possible, or they will attend virtually to observe the election. And so there must be actual votes on the floor of the chapter's meeting, and a member of the electoral committee, a representative of the electoral committee, will be there, whether physically or virtually, to observe and take record of how the vote went and who actually won. So a small chapter, one family chapter, whatever, they will have to have an election committee. And of course, there will have to be a video recording of that meeting for that day during the election. So there will be a lot of evidence to show who the chapter actually voted. And if it is a one-member chapter, whom we've been told we got these members, we got these members, then we will know on that day. But there will certainly not be a situation where somebody comes to the convention and say, oh, I'm the president of this chapter, here's who my chapter voted for. Because the electoral committee would have also have a record of who the chapter voted for at their meeting. That is the process. Now, the rest of whether the chapter is big enough or not big enough will be up to AKISAN at a later time, as the chairman has pointed out.
Thank you for the question. Next,
I also want to chime in that we were sensitive, Chief, to make sure you don't go and disenfranchise chapters. We have a baseline of chapters today, and the Constitution is clear on what a chapter in good standing is. So those will be all factored into the process. So just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
So,
the next person.
next person, Mr. Gentleman. Tight Medic, please, you're next. Then Ms. Don, you will be the next one.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Yes.
A quick comment. I think we should be careful how we deal with that chapter issue, because we already have some chapters that AKISAN has accepted as chapters and have been paying their dues, and those chapters should be grandfathered in as chapters in AKISAN. Now, if you want to come up with new rules, that should pertain to new chapters coming in. And we should be very careful about the national trying to go to supervise local elections. I think that might raise a constitutional issue, because a local chapter might not want the national to participate or have anything to do in how they run their chapters. That's a side comment.
Well, thank you.
Mr.
Were
Chairman.
you looking for a response, or you had additional question?
It was just a comment. It was just a comment.
Yes, I appreciate the comment. Actually, both of the questions that you have, comments or observation that you have brought forth has been thought about quite a bit. So,
okay.
Like I told you by the first one, we were very sensitive to some of those issues. In terms of the national supervising, the national is not going to supervise anything. They have to be able to verify the information that's being provided. So the national there's nothing in the Constitution that's going to require any national to supervise, but they will have to have some status to be able to verify what's going on, in terms of validating that the chapter voted for A and not for B.
Okay. Now to my question. Number one, I heard you mention standing committees. I think you mentioned the 2 standing committees, and that was, I think, policy and constitution. Am I correct?
Policy/constitution and budget finance, as well as the new electoral committee is a standing committee. Those are 3 new committees that are created through the Constitution.
Okay, that would be in addition to ETF and project.
Yeah, we did not dissolve any current committees. Those are committees, basically ETF is also a standing committee. So there's really 4 right now. The Constitution recognized, the Constitution really truly recognized, right now the Constitution truly recognized ETF as a truly standing committee, ETF. We have added 3 more, and all the other committees are very much what we call ad hoc, and a new executive can create and dissolve them. Or or the Joint National Council can create and dissolve them.
Okay, I got you. Now, in the question of elections, when we have it, what do we do in case we have 30 chapters and there is a tie of 15 chapters for one candidate and 15 chapters for the other?
Okay, all right. So obviously, okay, all right. That's a good question. Actually, we have answers for you. So yeah, in case there's a tie, the electoral committee is empowered to facilitate a vote by the council or chapter president to break the tie.
But the council of chapter presidents are also presidents who are voting.
No, it's the members that are voting.
Oh, the members are voting. No.
You know, okay, so I'm going to give you an example, a very good example.
I mean, like in the board, the individual members vote for.
Let me give you a good example. There can be an issue in my chapter that, let's assume that members do not vote in my position. They don't vote my position. They can vote against me, against my position. I can be on the wrong side of the majority. But when it goes to the national, if it becomes a tie, I could vote my position. You understand? So it's going to be difficult to have a tie. It's really going to be difficult. It's going to have to be that those 2 candidates are going to be so damn close. in what they're going to deliver for AKISAN to even be close. Normally what we have is we have candidates that are, there's a large majority of one, and it's usually not too much in the middle. So, but if we have situation where there's really the candidates are running neck and neck, I think that's a great thing for AKISAN, that we have candidates that are really qualified and people really love them. They really to support them, and they take it all the way to the national. But the electoral committee is empowered to facilitate a vote to break the tie at the business convention.
Okay. I think we are lucky if, by the way, are we going with 50 plus 1% or majority?
For what?
For the presidential.
You just have to win a majority, whether
A
if you win it by
simple
1/2 point.
Okay. Yeah,
No,
you just have to
but
win by 1 vote. That's all.
it is when you say 50 plus 1, are you talking about the election at the local level? Because the president is actually elected at the local level, chapter by chapter. That's what it is.
Win
And
one
so
more
if
chapter.
Yes,
than your
so
opponent.
at the chapter level, I guess it will depend on the chapter's rules and constitution. But for the most part, I believe it is simple majority. Now, when it comes to the casting of the affirmation of the votes, so the affirmation of the votes at the business meeting, the result of the election would already have been known. The business meetings process is just to call the chapter president and say, how did your chapter vote? And the electoral committee will affirm that that is how they voted based on their observation.
Okay. We are lucky if we have 3 candidates. It will make things simple. And okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you
Okay.
for your question.
Yeah, we
Remember
have.
that we've had it. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you. So the next question is from Don.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President and the committee. My comment on a second term for the president. The organization is actually growing very fast, and we have a lot of people. And I believe that people should have opportunity to lead. And that opportunity should also be available at the highest level for every Akwa Ibom citizen or member of this organization to aspire to. So in the first place, one person hogging onto this position for 4 years limits that opportunity. Secondly, you have done a great job in putting in governance structures that will ensure continuity, which goes beyond the president alone. So if we continue as an organized organization, a president or an aspirant to the presidency should be able to lay out their vision and shouldn't start that vision laying 2 days to the election. So before somebody aspires to the presidency, the person should have had a plan and should be able to execute that plan within the time period that he or she is allocated. So that's my second point. And then my third point is that there is a risk of complacency. We have seen in the micro communities and also in the extended community in the nation, state nation, that a second term in a lot of cases brings complacency, and people just go in there and they don't do what they thought they would be able to do. Sometimes they give excuses and say, oh, it's because I had a short time in the first term, I will do better in the second term. A popular case is the case in Edo State, where Igbenedion was told, let my son repeat. If your son fails, let him repeat. The state made him to repeat, and he had a second term, and it still wasn't good for the people of Edo State. So if people, or if somebody wants to aspire to the position of the president, the person should do it in the first term and leave a legacy in the first term. And we will then depend on the good governance structure that you have put in place to ensure that our organization continues effectively. Thank you again for the great job you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. So the Constitution Committee too, hopefully, I'm not sure whether I will give you a peaceful answer, but I'll try to sort of let you see where we're coming from in terms of the logic as debated within the committee. Not everybody can lead, just flat out. Not everybody can lead. If you don't think I'm wrong, look back and look at the history of AKISAN. Leadership is one of the most difficult jobs there is. It's not technocrats. It's not like go and code a bunch of things and you walk and you fix it. So leadership takes a different kinds of skill set. And do we have that many AKISAN? Maybe we do, but they don't rise up to want to lead this organization. And what we're trying to do is put the organization in a place whereby the people that we feel are the cream of the crop will want to come here and lead this organization. And when they come in, leaders, when they come in, and they come in with those characters, those traits that you will see in a leader, it doesn't really change. Someone who wants to leave a legacy of positive does not just immediately, when they get in there, they change to want to leave a legacy of, absconding with money. So it's not easy to find good leadership. And we're not saying that we're going to give this person a second term. No. If the people don't want the person in the second term, vote them out. The person is still going to have to contest with just all the other contestants, and they have to win the majority of the vote from the chapters. So I think it's a good thing because it will allow, if somebody does a wonderful job, it will allow them to finish some of those things that they've started. So in terms of vision, yes, that's part of what you and I and everybody should evaluate. You should evaluate your leadership based on what they've done and where you see them taking us. You should go back and verify their background. You should do some what we call due diligence. You should go back and see what have they done in the past that says that they can do something in the future for AKISAN. Just because they ran some tiny little podunk thing, America used the word podunk thing somewhere, does not mean that they're going to come and be able to run AKISAN. So it is incumbent about each of us to do our own due diligence before we elect someone. I mean, if somebody was stealing money in the past, and all of a sudden you think they're going to become converted because they become AKISAN, you give them more money to steal, it doesn't work like that. So we have a responsibility to vet our leadership. In fact, part of the electoral committee is to kind of be that second gate to vet these leaders. We have a responsibility to do that. So I think I covered a couple of the things that you made. I don't know, what was I think there was a third point that you made. I'm not sure what, there was a third point that you made?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you have covered
a lot
of
it. Your third point was complacency.
Complacency, yes.
So the complacency issue, like I said, when you find someone that has the best interest of the association at heart and have a vision and you can see where the trajectory that they're taking you, you don't see that person change. A leopard doesn't change colors. When you get the right leadership in place, you kind of know, because you will see by their behavior, you will know them. I don't care what they say. It's what they do. You will know. And then you can look back. You can look back and do your own investigation.
Either fruit.
Thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Please, I just want to comment here that we were scheduled to end at 4 o'clock, and the time now is 3:41, and we are keeping to our time. So we will take the last 3 hands up, and that will be it for today. So I think Mr. Dr. Kiko, who is the next one out of the?
Nadia is next.
Yes,
Dr.
please.
Tekin, and then Madam Fonomo, in that order.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Kiko, and thank you very much, National Vice President, sorry. And thank you, Chairman, for giving me opportunity. I only have one question. The Electoral Committee, the trip to each of the chapters, who is going to be funding those trips?
Well, the beauty of technology is that it doesn't have to cost us much. And we have actually, it's not really so much of a trip, it's a method to verify. So that method can be in so many different ways that costs us nothing.
Another Adam Andy here. Adam Andy here. Just to put this in perspective, if there's a member of the electoral committee that lives close to a chapter that's conducting election and he or she can drive down, that's fine. But otherwise, they can always join virtually. That's what it is.
So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So the next person is Madam. Yes. Please.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think this committee has done a tremendous work, and I applaud all of you, hard as it is. My question, though, is how do you select the electoral committee members? Who constitute the electoral committee members?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, it's good that you guys are asking some really good questions. When the final documents is released, you'll answer a lot of it. Yes, so the electoral committee members, what the Constitution Committee settled on is that we will have 2 members out of the chapter presidents. 1 member will come from the national, 1 member will come from the national executive. We will have a representation at large. In other words, within the committee, they will pick a large member, bring an outsider. With the legal counsel will be a member of that committee. And then I believe there's 1 more. So there will be 6 members, but 5 will be what we call voting members. And 1 legal counsel will not be, the legal counsel will be strictly be there as an advisory capacity. It will not be a voting member. So I believe 2 chapter presidents, 1 from the national executive, 1 from the board of trustees, 1 outsider, and the legal counsel. That's what makes up the 6.
Can you, I'm sorry, I just need to ask in addition to that, can you specify that in the document?
Yes, it is specified in the Constitution. Yes, correct.
Okay.
It is very specific.
I'm sorry, that they will be elected at the convention?
No, the chapter president. No. There's no election of the only individual that will be selected at the business meeting of the convention will be the at-large member. Or it can be facilitated, if it's not done at the convention, that can be facilitated at the Joint National Council. But all the other positions, for instance, the chapter council president, within that deliberation, they will decide the 2 people that they want to send to that committee. The board of trustees, within that deliberation, they will decide the 1 person they want to send. The national executive, within that deliberation, they can decide who they want to send. The legal counsel is a permanent member of that committee, but he or she is not a voting member. And then within the membership, those 5 members, they will decide who they should bring in from an outsider to represent an outside voice.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
Was that clear? Thank you. So the last question for today.
I think there was 1 more. I think Mr. Yobio, did you ask your question? I know I saw his hands.
Mfonomo is next.
Mfonomo has a hand.
Mfonomo. It's Mfonomo that I saw. Yes, please.
Mfonomo is only going to give us glorious recommendations.
Madam DC. Madam Washington DC, it's your turn. Please, thank you.
The nation's capital.
The nation's capital. Take over.
Okay. All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I just want to commend the committee and all the work that you guys have done. It's not easy, and then to have this time, to set up to answer our questions. We really want to say we appreciate you all. I wanted to add, not add, what my sister Dawn was talking about, one term. I just want to say that on the contrary, I think 2 terms gives an opportunity to the candidate or the president to know that if he doesn't do well the first time, he's not going to come back the second time. So it makes the person work harder, knowing that if I do well, I'm going to continue because people will vote for me based on my record. But if you know that, okay, hey, just one term, I've been voted in, you become complacent. Okay, I'm just waiting for August to be done. I'll be out of here, so I can do whatever I want to do. So I think the second term is good, giving opportunities to finish what they started, and also giving them the hope that if I'm doing well, I'm going to be voted back in. Thank you. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. I knew you were going to give us
Awesome.
gorillas.
The chair was right.
There was one individual, I think Mr. Yobong, I saw his hand up long time ago. So.
Pisong, do you have something to say? We can give you a minute. Yeah, a couple of minutes, please.
Here, that name is not a Yobong.
It's okay.
You need to go home.
Gentlemen, ladies and
You need to
gentlemen.
listen home. Refresh your language.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You can always count on the hardest working man to correct you in the middle of the thing. So go ahead.
Like I said at the beginning, this forum gives people like me, that people don't hear from, to say something meaningful. I think today we have done that twice. Now, since 1967, this organization has not established a permanent secretariat. We've been nomadic. And that is not good for us. We proposed this a long time ago, but it was played down because we couldn't build a secretariat. Now, we have come past the age where you have to have a building to have a permanent secretariat. The digital age allows us to do that so that we don't have to be moving our bank account. We don't have to be changing our address with the government or any person they have been associating with. So I want the chairman, I know that it may not be for this particular constitutional amendment, to think of that, how we can digitally establish a digital headquarters permanently. So it doesn't matter where the secretariat moves to. We still use that information with the people we contact and the people we bring to our convention, the people that sponsor us. It doesn't look good that every 2 years, we elect a new president, we have to go change everything. The digital age allows us to have a permanent secretariat. People stay in India and have a secretariat somewhere or a corporate office somewhere without having a physical something. So that's something I want this organization to think seriously about, because it has been a hindrance to communication and progress. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Let me clarify a thing. When you, I just want to make sure I understand your question first. Commentary.
I was not after a question. I was
no. I wanted to make sure I understand the commentary. When you say permanent, you mean here in the States? Is that correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I appreciate the comment.
Mr. Chairman, let me say this to reaction to that comment. Please on Yobong. AKISAN currently have a permanent headquarters office in Washington, D.C., located at number 7600 Georgia Avenue, Unit 300, with a formal desk and everything. And anybody that goes to that office will see the AKISAN liaison officer, or what we call I've forgotten the word, but we have the AKISAN liaison officer in that office. So anybody that wants to contact AKISAN at the headquarters is free to do that. We do have that. It's not a build, it's not an entire building, but it's a very formal office.
I don't have problem with that. The problem is if we have that, why do we keep changing our address when we move?
Well,
why do we change our bank account when we move? When we move, a headquarter is a headquarter. It doesn't move. It doesn't move.
No, what I'm saying is in all communications with government and our sponsors, we use that address. Like when we're going to negotiate with a hotel, when they have correspondence with AKISAN, they use that address. Last time when Marriott Hotel was going to give us a refund, they mailed it to that office. And that is now, when we say secretariat, the secretariat where the executive is operating from may be moving, but the former headquarters office of AKISAN is located in one place, it's permanent.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Andy.
Thank you for that clarification, Andy. We really appreciate that. So, please, I was looking at the chats. Dr. Ikiko, is there, how many more minutes? Oh, no. Okay, we're at 3:53.
Yeah, 8 more minutes.
Yeah, 8 more minutes. And I think we will wrap it up today here.
I think we are done.
This is ongoing. We will have another opportunity to have this roadshow and continue in the conversations as it pertains to our organization. And I just want to say a very big thank you to everyone that has been on this forum. We had 38, that was the highest number, but I do believe that we can double that number next time. So please invite one person. I will too. I invited some here. So please reach out to one. If each person invited one person, we will be 76. And if each person invited 3 people, we can multiply that number. So let's do a little work here and build this community stronger. Thank you so much. On behalf of the national president, I just want to say a big thank you one more time. He will truly appreciate your presence, and I will convey all the conversations to him. It's recorded also. And as we progress, you will have more feedbacks. But for now, please go to our website, register for the convention, take the vaccine, support, book your rooms, get some arts for our association. Let's begin to raise some funds. We need some funds. So thank you. Have a wonderful weekend for the rest of the weekend, and God bless AKISAN. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam VP. Thank you, everybody. Good day.
Amen. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great one, Sister.
Bye-bye, everyone.